Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy buenas noches. Muchas gracias por estar aquí en este miércoles de SOMA. Yo le doy la bienvenida a Bogdan Perzyński, quien es un artista polaco que reside en Texas, cuya obra se basa en las filosofías de la acción comunicativa, el pragmatismo social y la invención individual. Utiliza el video, el sonido, la programación interactiva, la visión artificial en computadoras e interacción física con entornos arquitectónicos para abordar temas de su interés, como las dinámicas de fluidos computacional, la recopilación, retención y visualización de datos contemporáneos y la ecología del futuro. Ha expuesto en Liliana Bloch Gallery, en la 52ª Bienal de Venecia y en el Museo de Arte Contemporáneo de Cracovia, Polonia, entre otros. Hello, Bogdan. How are you?
Doing all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here at Miércoles de SOMA. The mic is all yours, so I'll leave you to it.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me, and I hope you can see my screen, which I'm preparing for this presentation. Let me say that it's my great pleasure to be available and to meet you, although only virtually. And I understand, although I don't see you, that there is quite a few of you, that you are academic students, practitioners, artists, and it's my pleasure to to have a chance to meet you. I chatted just briefly with Carolina, and I suggested that I would take opportunity and will address actually two exhibitions that took place within a time span of a few years, and although I show predominantly internationally, these two exhibitions took place within Texas, and one in Dallas, another in Austin. But so the one in Dallas is at Liliana Bloch Gallery, with whom I have a relationship for a number of years, and I'm very pleased that she gives me all the opportunities to be as creative as I wish. The other show was, and I'm not sure I have a slide, but I have something very similar to that, was in a Museum of Human Achievement, which is non-profit space in Austin. Also a sort of a residency for upcoming artists from people at the beginning of their career, and they have a very rough space, and I do like rough spaces. And these two shows, plus other additional comments, will allow me to speak basically what interests me recently. And when I say recently, for those who don't know much about my career and so forth, and I think that's the case. I mean, over the last few years, as opposed to about 3 decades plus that I've been active as artist, and actually most of these years also as a faculty who at the university and colleges. So, dear all, what you are looking at? You're looking at the actually former space of Liliana Bloch Gallery in Dallas, and the exhibition here is the first iteration in her space of a work which is called Table, and first in her gallery, but the real first was in the Museum of Human Achievement, which is as I said, it's a kind of bigger and rougher space, and the premise for the show was to pay attention, if I may say it in a very direct way, but also metaphoric way in a way, to the ground, but also to moments of transitions. So that this collection of photographs, which is a section of 700 photographs altogether, shows the, like on the left, shows the kind of cut down forest about 100 years ago, growing back. On the right, one can see that in the middle, you can see the cities on the borders. In this case, there are border cities between Poland and Germany that for decades were wearing sort of signs and wounds of a Second World War, because nobody knew what will happen really to the cities. I mean, we all know that how sensitive are at such a border cities. In Texas, there's between Mexico and Texas, there's Laredo. There are also other cities, and border crossing has always been tricky for human population. And over the last years, we probably witnessed the most of a migration ever. Then in this exhibition, which had an ambition to be a little bit of immersive, there's another set of photographs, and I will have some other views which I can. Okay, here it is, and you can see that the peculiar element of this installation is actually lower, very low row, which is a double row, which is at the end of a column. So there are photographs behind photographs, and one has to literally touch it and grab it and look what underneath. And the idea for this, the title is table, but the idea came from actually for periodic table that, as everybody knows, has been mastered by several. But to me, in school in Poland, I was taught that Mendeleev, Russian scientist, formulated the table, and of course there were spaces that were not filled yet, but because of the principle of chemistry and physics, these future elements were to be discovered, and all of it is of course true. So the most volatile row and most unpredictable in terms of lifespan is the one on the bottom. So the reason for me to actually do not deal with chemistry, but rather use the idea of a science and take it to the to kind of existential element, including my life, it was very simple. I'm not a scientist, but in many ways, a lot of inspirations, without scientific precision, of course, come to me by actually not studying art, although I do it as well, but by looking at other disciplines. And that has been the case with me for a very long time. Nobody in my family was an artist, and my father was an engineer. My sister was a chemist, and the other sister is also an engineer. And I happen to be, the strange creature in a family. So this cross-disciplinariness basically wasn't a fashion or a trend that I picked. It was a part of kind of family life almost at that time. This work, if you want to know, is all of the same size. Photographs are not edited, and the style of photography is probably close to documentary. It's not a travelogue. It is not about where art has been, but I rather will go to the places that were fascinating to me for the reason I just tried to sketch out for you. So I'll see what's the next slide, just to do not bore you with the same subject. This is just a very simple drawing, which I love doing, and it's not even that I know exactly how to connect this to what I do, but what I just described. But in my studio, and a lot of things actually I do outside of studio. Some years ago, actually, as soon as these instruments were available, I started to use autonomous flying object, or drone, you call it, and I bought one. Later on, I had to register that, but I was flying that anywhere I could, and not necessarily being always aware if what I do is legal. So I feel a little bit like an artist who crosses again a kind of border of some sort, and I didn't know what will happen on the other side. For instance, one summer when I was in Rome, I didn't know that the Holy City declared the year of some kind of year of something, which I don't remember, and to celebrate the spirit of this particular dedication, they said no flying drones. How bizarre! So in order to fly drones in Rome, I had to wake up. I was staying in a British Academy in Rome. I had to wake up very early when nobody could catch me, and I was flying around area that I wished to. time and again. And the same happened, although without the same restriction, when I was in London, or when I was in Italy at Vesuvius, when I was flying a drone to the bottom of a volcano, which at that time was dormant. And one could say that I was playing like so many people are doing, including kids in the park next to me. But I did something. I flew that in a very peculiar way. I never looked towards horizon. I always looked down, and I was interested in a perpendicular relation with the ground, trying to say that I'm not interested in the sky. I'm not interested in what's on the horizon, or some kind of metaphorical figure of speech that I want to reach beyond horizon. Actually, I was trying to create a stronger and better and a more significant, to me at least, relation with the ground. That led me to also to another passion of mine, which is modifying screens, and then this particular capture of a ground level, of a ground from the. I don't know if you are aware, dear audience, but the international law right now allows a 400 feet level, minus areas when the airports and maybe some other crucial facilities, and a drone user also encouraged to get trained, and then also encouraged to do not fly around the highway. And the weight of your drone is very important, because what will happen if it collapses on some kind of in the middle of a traffic on a freeway. So it's a little bit tricky area, and I'm not joking that that it was sometimes nerve-wracking. The fun part was, of course, to fly to the bottom of Vesuvius, which actually was more boring than you think, and then a few other locations. So let me move to the next slide. And what you just saw is a drawing of such a unnamed vehicle, and it was a play of imagination. But what you see right now here is the entry door to the Liliana Bloch Gallery, and this again, looking at the ground, the monitor is two-sided, and at very low speed it rotates, and so it has two kind of movements. One movement is a drone movement, and the whole little installation, I would say very modest in size, although it's quite large. It's also a sort of like a rotating object and navigating itself. And then, and I wanted that to sort of functioning as a revolving door. If you see it, it's at the angle, but it is on your way as close as I could without like violating fire code to get to the door as possible. And what more important is if the show here inside shows different location, really international location. What you see here is actually taken from in Beijing in China in 2008, in the year of Olympics. And what you see here is the space that I video recorded, filmed right above the gallery. So the gallery in a way has a cup. One is which is at the door to the space, and this kind of coding by making this installation that have strong reference to arrangement or maybe architectonic quality to space are very, I don't want to say essential, but because I'm not essentialist philosophically speaking, but they're important to me. And I would be happy to take questions if you have them later on about the difference. So let me move. Okay, that's another view, and you can see I'm taking some risk because I'm exactly above the highway freeway, and I'm actually hovering, not moving the machine, and it is about 400 feet up, and I know exactly how things look at this distance because that's how far I go, except few areas when I went much higher because I was very comfortable. So here you see another, I'm going to play a little bit for you. That's the Museum of Human Achievement, and it is a different show. And there was a passage, and the passage was exactly the size of the screen. and the drone was flying prior to the exhibition, exactly above the space that you are seeing this motorized experimental screen, they're flat screens. I'm going to shut up and then just do not speak and just let you see it for a second. One of the things that do not happen when you fly such vehicles is that, at least in my case, I don't take sound. These drones are loud, and I don't care about the phenomenology of the machinery. What I want is the image. I want to show what the drone is targeting. And if there's a sound of machinery, it is actually coming from this rotating screen that use very impressive gear, and it's very quiet, and it's still, it actually moves in both directions depending how I program that. So this is an example of just how one work enters two exhibitions and it sort of builds on to the framework of ideas that I'm interested in. There's no question that you could just duck and go, just pass the screen in this situation, because if you bend over and walk over there, you can see what's over there. But one thing is certain: without mirrors, you have two views, and you can never inspect them or survey at the same time. But they're all from the same neighborhood. And I'm on purpose. I'm moving very slowly, trying to slow down also the perception and not to fascinate you with the slow motion, but I feel that things are just way moving too fast for us very often. I'm going to move on, and then this is just a close-up, but the same thing. So I'm just going to do brutally and jump it to different location, and go to the next slide. So this is from the show that you've seen before. I'm flying around Liliana Bloch Gallery, and she was in this design district at that time. She moved to her own space, and you see the landscape that almost look like a moon landscape or some kind of, but it's actually in the middle of Dallas. And it's, I feel, I never experienced anything like that. Almost the beauty of industrial architecture and the remnants of what do you call it? Nature? Probably it is a nature, but that's not necessarily the way things were here before the Dallas became what it is. This is all human-made. Water is bigger than puddle, but it is engineering to design to control what happens to water and when we have a big rain. And in Texas, when the rain comes, it can be really big. So so sometimes those installations are two screens, sometimes it's one screen. I'm not jumping to different locations. So I'm going to now, speaking about jumping, to go straight to the show that opened in May. Again, Liliana Bloch Gallery, and what you are seeing here is something that that I need to comment. First of all, that was the first time I've done something like that. I'm going to explain that a little bit. Working with some exhibition spaces, the space that I really love to work with, comes to not to money, not to financial rewards, if you know what I mean, but to a sort of element of trust of a gallery that says, we would like you to show your recent work, what you got. And I said, well, I would say, like, I have this or I have that. And very often they would ask for a list of work, and then they would start to think how to present their work. But this time around, and I could have the situation almost any time I would ask, and that's a pleasure of working with people that you exactly like and respect. But the conversation was actually quite different. I said, well, I have 4 months to make a work. And the response was, yes, this is a different situation. We will probably have only by invitation, opening by invitation. Feel free to do something different. And I never repeat my show. I need to share that with you. It's always different. So a lot of things that I was told were exactly what I was told without pandemics. But I understood that that it is not about telling me something new, but stressing something that is my way of working anyway. So also Liliana thought about doing a retrospective. I always scared of retrospectives, and I never been in one, and I probably don't want to be in one. But showing number of works, and that crossed my mind that I have a work from years ago. Literally on the PDF I'm showing you, there's about 200 works. I'm not going to show you because that's not my plan today. And I thought that I would pick and choose works from the past and put it in one show, making sure that all of it goes together. And there was another component to this idea, and I started to work on it in January, and I ended to work on it in May. I received some time ago, actually 2 decades ago, from my late wife, a number of archival materials, starting in almost everything from Texas, starting in a late 19th century. And some of it was in German, some of it in English, for known reason. There was a very mixed population living here, but the interest I developed, the press, which is Texas press, that I'm referring to, these documents, which is actually printing press. I was in everything starting around 1920s and then going into the early 70s. But I will either have a full some scraps, some cutouts. I don't know. Somebody was picking and choosing something, and a lot of leftovers, or the whole pages, even sometimes the entire newspaper that I could cut up myself if I wanted to. And in the past, I was working on a concept of surfaces in art, which I think is very important. It was important to me when I was graduating, so to speak, when each of us were asking how to work, what to focus, and so forth. I felt I definitely need to focus on surface, but not on painterly surface. And I called this series of work surface drawings. And this drawing here, that would be the piece of a newsprint, and that's a graphite drawing. And each time I'll be making a black drawing here, the outline will follow the scrap, something which is a piece of document. The wax here is I collected that in Texas years ago, and if you don't know, okay, let me put it this way: there are 3 sections. That one is related to independence and slavery. That one is to the technological progress, and the opposite side of the wall, you will see later on, is about women advancement in a culture, sciences, politics, everywhere. So basically, I have a 3 thematic component. So the enslavement and slavery and lack of independence, including national independence, is a subject that millions of people experience. So I'm just part of it, of the history, and I call the whole show half slave and half free, which is coming from a very famous speech by Abraham Lincoln, who commented that the United States have 2 choices: either be half slave and half free, or one of it only. I'm paraphrasing, but the idea was that the slavery is not acceptable and it's time to go to civil war. That's what history tells us. And the second time around, it was JFK, Kennedy. also before his election, and he referred to that in a slightly different way. So for those who have a passion for differences in historical interpretation, I would highly recommend to look at these two main historical figures using this statement. I use the half and half or 50-50 or the sense of a scale on the one side this, on the one side this, also because the symbol of a justice is a blind figure. I think allegory of justice is a female figure who is blindfolded and she holds the scale, and the justice is to, and scale is a vehicle to figure it out where the justice is. So let me now go straight back to the choice of some of the materials here. This is a wax representing pretty much the average size of a human figure. Maybe I'm not average, I'm over 6. Wax in Africa was a major currency to pay, actually to trade with the outside world. The second currency was slaves. And a third one, I believe, it was ivory. Actually, I not believe, I'm pretty sure. So for instance, the skilled slave worker, male worker, will be, his price will be $250 if it's skilled in terms of today's money. And this information is hardly available until I discovered a book that analyzed it from the economy point of view. And I decided to use it as a currency and as also not even a symbol, as a currency used as equivalent for a human being. And you will see later on what else, how did I use as well. So I'm going to go to another view. During performance, the show opened at 6 o'clock. And what I wanted to do for the gallery, they knew I'm going to do a performance with a number of friends of mine. But I said I'm going to bring outdoor activity, alluding to the way we operate in COVID times. And we are going to play soccer in the middle of a gallery. And I said, if there's a damage to the work of art, I will take responsibility for it. Don't worry about it, I said to the gallery. And we play soccer, but I also said everything we will do will take very slow. And I wanted to refer to the speed of yoga, of Tai Chi, that tries to bring the harmony between half of us, which is our mind, and another half, which is our body. The other idea was also yoga. So I invited friends and acquaintances. I also commissioned music for that of somebody who's a choir singer. My daughter is a yoga trainer, teacher. There's also a dog, English bulldog, in it. And what you see here is the show after the performance. What you hear right now, it's actually music from the film that I happen to be showing about, like right now in Tokyo, India, Los Angeles, Hollywood, Greece, and then Munich, Germany, and a few other places. It's a very short piece, but it became very popular with the film festivals. So that's a view that is after the performance. I'm going to move to the next slide. That's a video, and the video is on purpose. I'm trying to speak a little bit about logic of my work. When I work, I thought about creating coming to art from the position of a criminal. So I thought for this show, artist is a criminal. And I think I introduced the feeling about experimenting with art already earlier when I was talking about the risk of flying drones. The risk on the left and right when you really experiment, you can risk your career, you can risk financial losses, you can get in trouble of all kinds. I don't have to quote all the artists who've been in the middle of a legal battles for years, National Endowment for the Arts in the United States and so forth. And this double-sidedness of what we do, at the same time, we encourage all the time to experiment, take risks, innovate, even this, to bring destruction to existing status quo in politics and culture, was represented here by 2-screen projection. I really love this old technology. What you look at is a screen that takes a projection from the computer, from the projector, which is behind it, and it is and it's projecting on one side, and it of course flipped the reverse. But what's interesting, this Daylight, there's a company's name who produces the screens, is a Daylight, I believe. It's equally crisp and nice and beautiful, in my opinion, and there's no loss of contrast. And you can shoot it in the middle of a gallery. You don't have to dim the lights, which is exactly what I really like. I don't like to operate in a cinema black boxes. I'm skeptical about the point of a white boxes, but nobody creates a gray boxes for us. So this solution was particularly handy. If you see here those drawings, this is just continuation. Some of them represent money, like dollar. Like here is the $20, I believe. On the $20 is a president of the United States who was a ferocious racist, by the way, and there was some kind of fight to get him off the bill. And so there's all kind of stories here, and also the presentation it followed the waveform, which is both sound waveform, but also you can think about it as I took the angle from the climbing ladder. If you put it flat on the floor, ladder has always an angle at which you need to open ladder completely to climb on it. And I put it flat and I follow the angle, not knowing what is the right angle for the history or for my show. I just use the ladder. And then so whatever is done here, this work is this clogs here, this wooden shoes, where for dancers you will see some, and they are from the past, from the 80s. I asked for reenactment of a performance. The black object on the right hand side is a globe. It's like a geographic globe of this planet, but all black. You can put whatever you want on it, and any way you want it. And then we're also that's another view. These are in the right lower corner. It's sort of installation, but it isn't. These are supplies for performance. And I dumped everything here, which is gravel and a bark to maintain moisture and fertility. And I use this to mark the performers. You will see it at the end. Each time they hit the ground. So how the performance was conducted, I will talk about it in a second. But what you see here are remnants, are residual new objects or work of art, if you wanted to talk to me about it this way, immediately following very static show of objects. So my contention and my own internal discussion, what I have, if I don't have anybody to talk about it, is the nature of art objects, or maybe I should say the nature of what is left when we are not active around something that is a material properties. And literally it can be, I think, our body if we perform, or it can be the clothes we wear or objects we touched. And I talked to my friend, she plays beautiful guitar, and then actually I have a couple of guitars in my, I don't play guitar, but I'm always tempted to, when I'm passing next to guitar, to touch the strings and let the sound vibrate through my studio, through my house, for as long as there is a vibration. And I like the voice of objects. And so when I say object, I also want to say in the sense, like in what sense guitar is an object. This is not a guitar by a cubist painting. On a cubist painting, it is an actual object that if you touch, it transforms the space. And that's my sensibility, and that's my agenda. So each time somebody will hit the ground, I put a number, which is like a evidence of a crime. Police will do it, and I will document that, and I will leave it for the 30 days. Everything stayed for 30 days as a sort of what do you call it? collection of objects for a forensic investigation. So, my dear audience, you could go over there if you would be there, and you will see two shows, one on the wall and one on the floor. And of course, I have nothing on the ceiling this time, and I have a no ground view done by drone, but this kind of 360 was my goal. And speaking of that, the whole composition, the sound composition, to which I discussed heavily with my friend, was so-called a 360, was presented as a 360, which means that the sound was coming from all three directions in equal proportions, and doesn't matter where you win in a gallery, you hear the same thing. That's very different than stereo. It was omnipresent sound. Let me move on, and then show you another view. You don't see those speakers here because this is when we took all the audio out, because audio is just to present the sound, and there's no more sound here. And this is another view. What you see right in front of it, is actually a newspaper announcing to the world, from Dallas newspaper, telling us that JFK was assassinated. And this newspaper, I didn't cut in pieces. Out of respect for the gravity of this press. If you would own this, you could take this out and see what on the other pages are fascinating things to read. And working with archive and sometimes in investigating fragments, which I think was very much part of the show, is what we do, especially when we think backwards and when we are fishing and hunting for ideas and we are thinking about how to move forward. I need to be brief. I'm moving nicely forward, but I would like to get out of this zone a little bit and show you some excerpts from the performance, which has its own dynamics. And everything is called crime scene or something danger, and you are not encouraged to play with it any longer, as opposed to performance when you could actually mingle with performers, and very few people did. Actually, nobody did except galleries who was running around and video recording that, and a child. It's always a child that really are the most courageous, in my opinion, and they cross the threshold of what's appropriate very easily, and I really like that about them. And okay, that's a shot from the performance, very beginning. I'll quickly show you a shot from the performance and another shot. You can see middle person is doing Shiva pose, and you can see the outline right behind her because she was up with her legs, keeping them against the wall. I took the outline of that. There's a dog. She's doing another thing, and her dog is very puzzled what the hell is she doing. We had no idea what the dog will do. I'll play you now some excerpts. This is going to be Vimeo, and starting. So what I'm doing, basically, I'm creating the goal out of this wax box, like creating a place which is a part of a soccer field. Yes, and in 3 more minutes, which is going to be about, I hope this is coming up. This is the under 3 minutes piece, which is a part of the show. And it precedes everything I've done in terms of performance. Thank you. Yes, that will be all I would like to show today, and I'd be happy to have a conversation, have questions. Can you hear me? Yes.
Hi, Bogdan. Yes. Hi. So there's a lot of questions from our audience. There's Lorenzo that asks, hello, I'm interested in the idea of the future ecology, but I can't quite grasp it. Do you think you can tell us more on this topic?
Yes, I would try. Lorenzo, right?
Yes.
Yes, I would try. Also, I don't. I hope there'll be introduced something that will make sense to the interlocutor. I wrote a rather lengthy essay that then heavily edited and published, and that actually is the title of this short essay, eventually short. And I was curious about how did I get started. I wanted to think about what's in the future for everything from the more anthropological point of view, but not necessarily human point of view. And entirely human point of view. And the inspiration to think differently about it came from a rather well-known anthropologist and actually art curator as well, whose name is Bruno Latour. He's originally from France, and he was a great deal of an advocate of science and also revising our relationship with the natural environment. And when we say protecting natural environment, sometimes we also overlap this term with ecological issues. And I think that's at the heart of the future ecology in a way, that I cannot imagine that that we can reverse the history of the impact and the impact that we have on the environment, and the ecological consequences are very difficult, if not impossible, to stop. So I'm a little bit of a pessimist until something incredibly impactful that I don't see yet will happen. The speed and the speed with which we accept industrialization, the speed with which we basically take away from flora and fauna the condition in which they can procreate and recover is so big, and that I don't see really a very smart and good solution. I know that, for instance, Australia established a natural environment to have a civil rights recently, that they returned to indigenous people in Australia, huge, one of the most precious natural forests. I know that we're planting tons of trees, but the point is not really how many trees we plant, but whether what takes forests to live can be uninterrupted. Basically, we divide. It's not about counting trees. We already divided natural environment into small pieces, and the life is not going to recover by itself without major changes. So when I'm thinking about the future ecology, I'm thinking this expression of sort of pessimistic view. You could also say, like Tim Morton said it. I think he's in Houston, in English department at Rice University in Houston. He wrote a book about dark ecology, I believe it is called. There's something very dark about it, and then this subject of if something worries me, I very often start to work on it, and then so to me, it's the beginning of working on an ecological or issues or environmental issue for a long time, but on a new understanding of ecological, a new concept of ecology. It interests me a great deal. I can also say that if that kind of is if I can diverge a little bit, my future project, which is a film, which I hope to finish by the end of 2023, is called Darkly, but it goes back to humans, to us, and to what we do to how quickly we ruin the old-fashioned notion of privacy and autonomy. We submit ourselves to endless surveillance in any form, from anything about private life and about our financial life, medical condition, all of it right now becomes a public domain almost. And I would say, if this is not my concern because I'm older, it should be concern of those who are coming after us. So any other question? Did I answer a little bit? So this is a plateau to speak for me, not necessarily with fully-fledged concept.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's another viewer that asked, in your projects, do you always use performance, or how has your relationship with performance been? I put this way. When you say always, you probably mean what's the name of a person who questions? Have a question? Oh, let me see.
Okay.
Jimena.
Okay, so it's when I left school I didn't want to teach, and then that's Poland. I graduated with painting and drawing, which I loved, and but I didn't find myself to have much to say and I thought I'm not going to paint for a while until I check few things for myself, until I allow myself free of a media that I studied for so many years, because I studied that for a decade already. I wanted to do something that I know less about, and performance was a perfect thing for me to do. I lived in a communist Poland, maybe socialist rather. It wasn't very hardcore communist when I was growing up, and I traveled frequently to Berlin, and which was actually, I should call West Berlin, and that has been for me a window and a door to see how different people from different national backgrounds who happen to end up in West Berlin, how they work, how they think, what they do. I had a contact with performance, and not that I wanted to emulate that, but I felt identically, like I've seen performance by Terry Fox, for instance, which is very interesting American artist, deceased right now. And I felt that performance is a very laboratory situation for me. And if I want to discover something new for myself, I want to do performances. And I have a dear friends who are painters and who wants to do performance as well. I didn't ask them why, because to me, it's actually quite obvious that is a great place to experiment and feel very free from a media. I don't think performance is exactly what media is, the way we define media. So performance comes and goes. I've been doing that for 35 plus years, and I never stopped, but I don't do it all the time.
Great, perfect. So there's another one. This one is says Carlos Rodriguez says, when you mentioned the periodic table and the blank spaces for the elements that are yet to be discovered, I wondered if you find some inspiration there that relates to the unfinished part of a work of art, in the way that a performance turns out, or how the spectator sometimes is the one who finishes the work of art.
Yeah, I see. This is great. I like the way you play with the work. I think that's fantastic. That's really very sweet. The same thing about the question about performance, because performance also kind of shows up and disappears, and there's some blank spaces in between, or maybe other work. Yeah, I like it very much. Yeah, it's exactly what I like about art, that one doesn't have to be linear, although we have to be rigorous very often. And if you think about the discussion in a literary criticism, and Roland Barthes and all the other important guys and girls and men and women, then that's and kind of our suddenly kind of almost civil war about audience right to do whatever you want with a piece. I like this idea very much. I mean, I honestly, I very often, I do not very often, but when I'm tired of order, I go back to my very beloved philosopher Karl Feyerabend, who wrote Against Method. And I also go to Robert Musil, who wrote Men Without Qualities, which is an unfinished book. So I like the notion that things are unfinished, and I like the notion that of fragments. Look, modern art is full of fragments. The whole show, Half Slave, Half Free, is about fragments and fragmentary nature of so many things. So there are gaps. Yeah, I like that very much. Beautiful question. Yeah.
Also, Jimena that asked earlier about the performance, about the relationship with the performance. She says, can you show us some of the performance you did at the beginning of your career?
Okay, so bear with me. I need to be now in a screen sharing. I think it's kind of, I love it. Yeah, it's great. Let me go back. Can I go back? If I don't do it a very clean way, and I probably won't, I'm going to do it dirty way. Why not? So This is like, it's frightening to have live on a PDF, artistic live. Okay, here we go. That was, I built this thing that was a home performance. I built these containers for hands and head. And when I really wanted to get out without going out of my apartment, I would stand over there like this for a time being until I was ready to come back. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but this is kind of performance intervention. These things in Poland were for all kind of posters, most political and cultural. And it was illegal to cover them or do anything. You have to have a permission to post anything. Every show go to so-called censura, censorship, office of censorship. And it was my performance or intervention, like with a drone, to go, to different location and suddenly cover. If people wake up and see no news on those pylons, they will see this black thing, and that's what I did. But these are the clocks. That's, you can see Bogdan, much younger here, that I reincarnated. That was a performance. The idea was to make walking as difficult as possible. So you can imagine what kind of person I am. I asked ballet dancer and a teacher to do ballet in these clocks, which is a very good artist, also a very good sculptor. She lives in Austin. These things are performances. So audience come in, and contrary to the habit of not touching art, I was hoping and asking them to touch. So this is for your buttocks. This is for your hands. This is for your nose here. This is for your forearms, and you're supposed to lean against it. The names of body parts here. This is for his belly. Actually, he's a very good artist. And this is for this girl is sitting with her bum on my artwork. So these were performative art. This is Moji Kamoji from Japan, who choose to live in Poland permanently. Who knows why? Another performance, things to use. So performance very often to me is to do something you can use. And a use, if I can borrow from German language, is the meaning. It's kind of like in language, there's no one use meaning for word. It is every possible meaning for every word in a particular language, which is a Spanish or Portuguese, Polish or English. It is the meaning of this world, and it comes with the context. These are the surface drawings. So these were just few performances that I can address here. That was intervention. I was making photos, which was performative or performance in a movie theater, and I was filming, which was illegal. I took a tripod with me. I was photographing screen during Taxi Driver by Scorsese, stuff like that. And there's more. And if I don't perform, I deal with robotics, like in here. This is about crisis in the first Gulf War, which I was very critical of. So this is the outline of the United States. And there's two brooms. Each one is index of some kind of a problem. But these are just, so this is a robotics, this is a brooms dancing or bragging about, I'm ruining my show now. Anyway, I hope I answer your question. So these are just like a few out of the many, if I may.
Thank you.
So sometimes machine performs for me.
Also, Ernesto Mora, he asks, you experiment a lot with your projects and the materiality of them. So how do you decide which will be the medium of your artwork?
Well, actually, no offense. I hope that I'm permitted to be tricky with my answer. I don't care about the medium. I accept it. I work with it. I'm trying to do not be unaware or not to be studious about it. But I think I want to transcend the medium. That's why I'm doing film, and that's why I do performances. And I look how what interests me, how that can be articulated, or rather, I should say, what interests me, it comes first, and then I'm looking how I'm going to articulate it, and a media comes second. And I don't feel I don't want to be ignorant about it, but I want to study it, but I don't study that for the sake of a media. I'm trying to find external need to the media itself. To me, again, no offense, I think the question of working with medium is too formal to me those days. It's too, it's beautiful to discover something formal, but it's our dream to create painting we didn't see or create a film we didn't see and discover something about it. But I think like the same like with content, form and content and the way we speak and what we talk about, they have their own life curve and a life longevity, and we have to review them and discover and revise them and change periodically, I think. Some people do one thing all their life. I respect that, but it's not for me. I don't want to be caged this way. Although I like constraints very, very much. It's not about like total freedom, just respect for my emotional needs, for my conceptual needs, philosophical needs, existential needs, whatever. And they don't come in the form of any media. You know what I mean? So media needs to be a vehicle for me.
Perfect. Well, I think there are no more questions. I'm checking the YouTube chat, and I think there's no more questions. So I don't know if you want to share something else. If you want to say something else.
I mentioned that and that goes to the first question. That I'm working on an issue of privacy. I'm back to after trying to somehow take some privileges from humans as a kind of fast-growing tribe on this planet. I'm trying to go back and also say and also see what's going on to us as well. We are in a way the way philosophy was shaped, the way the culture was shaped, the way ethics was shaped. A lot of things are just for grab because the number of things that are taking place predominantly in a technology is entering our lives much faster than we are able to assess the consequences. So I'm trying to work on this experimental film that includes that speaks about privacy and autonomy, and I think the privacy and autonomy becomes kind of rare species right now for us. And I'm going to speak with people who deal with genetics, who work in IT, in internet technology, who are also lawyers and work with privacy issues, and a number of other members of human community at large that will illuminate this issue. I'm also trying to speak about people who are performers and artists who are basically scared that what they do is not going to accept it if they go public with it. That they do performances that mostly start at midnight and then go into the morning. If you want to know, one such a group is called the House of Kenzo from San Antonio. They're coming from Spanish, American, and a Black community, and they are there's a very strong sense of a communal relationship between these people of color, and they also have a other issue around their sexuality. So there's a really very rich to me fabric that speaks about, that is related to our autonomy and then our privacy. I'm curious what will come out of this film. I will let you know if I'm done, probably at the end of 2023. So that's my last things I would like to tell you.
Thank you, Bogdan.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for sharing your projects, for being here at Miércoles de Soma. Hopefully we can see you soon here in Mexico City, because now you're like spiritually.
I would love to do that. And I have friends in Mexico City, and my students from the past are constantly either here in Austin or in Texas or back in Mexico. So it's like there's many reasons to come. I really mean that. First time I will have opportunity, I will fly there and be there and visit.
Perfect. We will be waiting for you here.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me.
Y también muchas gracias a todas las personas que nos acompañaron el día de hoy en este miércoles de SOMA. Gracias por dialogar con Bogdan y los invitamos al próximo miércoles de SOMA, que es el 26 de enero, que es la presentación del libro Sontag. Entonces, si no se han suscrito a nuestro canal, por favor háganlo para que no se pierdan de ningún miércoles de SOMA, y recuerden que este miércoles de SOMA se queda disponible en nuestro canal. Nos vemos y bonita noche.